Welcome to this short video on the rogenSi negotiation planner. Over the next 10 minutes we're going to take you through our planning tool, the various modules and how to use each one. The aim of this is to help you maximise the value you extract from every negotiation you're involved in. So first up, let's have a look at the planner. The planner is printed out on 2 A4 pages in this particular version, and it has 5 or 6 different modules that we're going to take you through piece by piece. Really simple to use. Typically we encourage you to use a pen and paper and use it with your colleagues when you're doing your planning. Let's though just understand the real value that goes with putting time into planning. And the first thing is we know that it helps you save time. People who plan consistently say to us that they were able to get their deals done on the first or second go rather than having those deals that we've all been involved in that have lasted for months and months. So it really is a time saver in the long run. Second thing is it allows you to collaborate with your colleagues in the office to work on your strategy together, to come up with a unified way of getting the results that you're looking for. It also allows you to be more in control when you're in the negotiation. You're going to know when you're off track and how to get yourself back on track. And finally, it gets better outcomes. Consistently we hear this from people, that the planning and the structure they get from a negotiation planner such as this one will help them get better outcomes, not only for themselves but for their counterparties. So let's take a look at the first of the modules, and this one's around establishing your objectives. But before we do that, we think it's really important you understand the mindset that's going to be necessary to get the best outcome from your negotiation. Now, in our language, we define mindset as the patterns of thinking that determine the quality of our actions. And so that means you really need to establish, what am I going to be thinking when I'm in the negotiation to make sure that I do the actions that get me the best possible outcome. So in this situation, you might decide that the mindset you need is to be win-win and get the best long-term deal for both parties. I think it's important to get that written down and get that agreed by everybody on your team. Next, you need to decide where you're trying to get to. If you don't know where you're going, they say any road will take you there. So setting your objective up front will help you work out the strategies that are most likely to deliver you the outcome you're looking for. In this case, you might want to achieve a rate of 110 per square foot for 5 years with no rent review for 4 years and an A-grade service level agreement. Knowing that's what you want to achieve means that everybody on your negotiating team can get themselves organised to achieve that result. But it's not just this that's necessary. Sometimes you need to have a bit more of a holistic thinking period around what you're trying to achieve. And to do that, we encourage you to think about the past and the future as well as the present. So what do we mean by that? That means sitting down and going, what's the history with this particular stakeholder or counterparty? And what sort of future do we think we're going to have? And therefore, today in the present, what are our current strengths and weaknesses? Now, we think that this kind of thinking will help inform the objectives that are possible and may also inform the mindset that's going to be necessary to get the best result. So now you've got a tick in the box around thinking about the past and the future as well as the present. You've got your objective set and you've got a mindset to match. So you can now move on to thinking about the items that are actually going to be negotiated in this particular negotiation. We always like to think of getting those items out, getting them written down and in priority order to you with the most important things at the top. So they could be items like rate, the term, a review period and a service level agreement. We'd encourage you to list those items and how important they might be to your counterparty. So they may not put things in the same order that you do. And these are the sort of rational things that are going to be haggled about, maybe negotiated on, traded and bargained for in the negotiation. But don't forget that there's some emotional considerations to keep in mind as well. And they're often more important than the rational things. So the planner has a place for you to list out some of those considerations. Now, sort of things that might be really important to you are building a partnership. You may have a strong belief in fairness. And for the counterparty, they may be really keen on making sure they have a win. They may also want to win a prestige client. These things may not be on the table during the negotiation, but they will be informing the way people make their decisions. So it's really good to think about them from both your and your counterparty's point of view. Now that you've identified one of the high priority items, it's important that you understand how much flexibility you have when you come to positioning and trading on that item. This is the rogenSi positioning model, a fantastic tool for helping you to get the deal that you want. So let's say we're working on something like rate. First thing I do is I go, I know where I want to finish up. I want to finish up at 110. That will help me work out what an ideal rate might be, which is 100, and a realistic rate might be 120. So that gives me a range to work in. I'll accept anything from 100 to 120. I think I can get 110. But that's not often how it works in a negotiation. You have to start with something a little keener than that. So you might open with something a little lower, say 90, but you also need to know when you would have to walk away, say 140. Now this gives me something I can work with when I'm in the negotiation. But beyond this, I also can go out to other parts of my business and say to people, say in finance, IT or HR, and get some advice on them on what's absolutely possible. So when I lock in the deal, I know I'm going to get their acceptance when I bring it back. You could also set your overall strategy for this piece of the pie. You might be able to say, you know what, we're going to be pretty flexible on this. But what flexibility might mean is that you're going to have to get a better deal on something else if you're going to give up on this really important item. And obviously when we're doing positioning and trading, there's multiple items we need to do this for. So our planning tool gives you an area where you can do that, where there's 4 positioning and trading models. One for rate, one for the term, one for the review, one for the service level agreement, for instance. And you can hope and develop a plan that gets you across in the deal zone on each one of those. So there's the positioning tool, really great for designing and working out what your strategy needs to be to get the deal that you want, giving you as much flexibility as you need. So your strategy is really starting together now. This is the last module in this particular planner, and we call it using the famous 5. And what it's designed to do to give you the best chance of controlling and managing the flow of your negotiation. The section looks a little like this, and it has 5 principal elements: the who, the what, the why, the how, and the outcome. Get these 5 things working for you, and you can increase the likelihood that you and your counterparty can work your way through the negotiation to a successful outcome. So what would be in the who? What would be the key people who are going to be in the negotiation? The what would be your agenda. You might agree on the items, explore positions, and then do your trading. And making sure that you do them in that order will really help you have a successful negotiation. I think it's important that everybody's agreed on why you're there. In this case, they have a vacant property and you need more space. So there is a deal to be done here. In the how, we like to cover off how much time you have, certain ground rules that you might use, and any specific roles that have to be given to people in the room. I also think it's important that both sides agree to the outcome. Are we both here to shake hands on a high-level terms of agreement today? If that's the case, you're more likely to get that outcome if everybody's there for the same reason. So that's the famous 5. 5 key things to help you get more control in your negotiation. So there we are. You've seen all the different modules that make up this negotiation planner. We've had a look at setting objectives and philosophy, developing the rational and emotional influences and items. We've looked at the negotiation meeting setup, the famous 5, and you've seen the positioning and trading models. So one more time, what we recognise from people who plan is that they save time in the long run, making their negotiations more efficient, more effective, and get done on the first or second go rather than lasting for months. We know that having a planning tool that everyone knows and understands can help you collaborate with your peers and ideally collaborate with your counterparties to produce a much better outcome. And of course, you can have greater control in your negotiations. You're going to know when you're off track and how to get back on track. And we think the combination of these things will help you generate significantly better outcomes every time you go to negotiate. And that's not just for you, that's for your counterparties as well. And that's certainly a great way to do long-term business relationships. So that's the negotiation planner from rogenSi. If you've got any further questions, my email address is on the screen. I'd love to hear from you.